Today we're going to look at the review for Unit 1 test worksheet. In this section we're only going to do problems 1 through 6. So looking at problem number 1 there, it's a simple order of operations problem. Remember, with addition and subtraction we just work left to right. So first thing we have to take care of is 4 minus negative 2. And when we subtract a negative number, don't forget that minus a negative is same as plus a positive, so it would be the same as 4 plus 2, and that would be 6. Everything else comes down. And then again, left to right. 6 plus 7 is going to be 13. Bring down the minus 15. And the last step, 13 minus 15 is negative 2. So that is my final answer there. Looking at number 2, this one's a little bit more than just a simple order of operations problem. This one has absolute value in it. So, first thing is, we treat absolute value like parentheses. We must take care of those first. So it's negative 11 plus 5. We must take care of that first. That gives me negative 6. It's still inside the absolute value. Negative 2 out in the front. Now, taking care of the absolute value next. Absolute value of negative 6 is 6, and as soon as I take care of the absolute value, usually I change them to parentheses. And then the last thing is we have negative 2 times 6, and that gives me negative 12. And that is my final answer. Number 3, a fraction problem. It's 14 divided by negative 7/5. So in this case, first thing I'd like to do is change this 14 here on top into a fraction. So 14 as a fraction is 14 over 1 divided by negative 7/5. Now remember, the rule with division and fractions is keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep the first fraction, 14 over 1, change the sign in the middle to multiplication, and then flip our last fraction. It's still going to be negative, but now it's going to be 5 over 7. And then at this point, you can multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. And then, of course, when we multiply straight across the top, we get 14 times 5, which is going to give me 70. Multiply across the bottom, 1 times 7 is 7. And since we have a positive 14 over 1 times a negative 5 over 7, our answer is going to be negative. Okay, remember that a negative times a positive gives you a negative. If the signs are different, it's negative. If the signs are the same, it comes out positive with multiplication and division. And then, of course, don't forget, always reduce your fractions. In this case, this fraction, 7 goes in both to the top and the bottom, so the top divided by 7 is 10, the bottom divided by 7 is 1, 10 over 1 is just 10, and then, of course, don't forget your negative sign. My final answer is 10 on this problem. Looking at the next problem, looking at number 4, this is an order of operations problem. This one's a little bit more complicated than the last couple we've looked at. First of all, do your parentheses first. 5 times 2 is 10. Bring down everything else. Next up, order of operations says we have to take care of our exponent. So 10 squared is going to be 100. And again, bring down everything else. Now at this point we have subtraction. We also have multiplication. So order of operations says we must do our multiplication first. And 8 times 5 is 40. And then, since all we're left with is subtraction, we can just do left to right rule. 15 minus 100 is negative 85. I'm going to run out of room here. Let's go horizontal now. And negative 85 minus 40 is going to be negative 125. Next one up, number 5. This one is a fractions problem with the order of operations. In fractions, we treat the top and the bottom like they're in parentheses, so we must take care of the top and the bottom first before we can take care of the big fraction bar in the middle. So, looking at the top portion here, 15 minus 9 times 2. Order of operations says we must take care of 9 times 2 first, which is 18. Then from there we have 15 minus 18, and that will give us negative 3. Taking care of the bottom, 6 squared minus 5 times 4. Okay, in this case, exponents must be taken care of first. 36, bring down minus 5 times 4. Now we have to do multiplication next. 5 times 4 gives me 20. 36 minus 20 will give me 16. So, the top of my fraction is negative 3. Bottom of my fraction is 16. Since it does not simplify, that is my final answer. And the last problem here, looking at number 6, addition of two fractions. Now, addition and subtraction is the case where you guys have to have a common denominator involved. So, first thing, what is our common denominator here between 3 and 8? It's going to be 24. Okay, so to get 24 on the bottom of the first fraction here, I'm going to have to multiply the bottom by 8. And if you do something to the bottom of a fraction, don't forget you have to do the same thing to the top. So 2 times 8 will give me 16 on top. Now to get 24 on the bottom of this one, we have to multiply it by 3. So 8 by 3 is 24. Whatever you do to the bottom, you must also do to the top. So we multiply the top by 3 also, and we get 21 on top. Now we add only the top. The bottom will remain the same when we do addition of fractions. Of course, remember, you can always use your calculator on the test also. So if your calculator does fractions, you're also allowed to use that. So what we end up with here is 37 over 24. And that's our final answer.